It's time to go to work with Kansas City's entrepreneurs, inventors, brand builders, and business icons.
I think in Kansas City, we're competing and we push each other to get better, and we definitely each of us wants to be the best, but at the same time, we're small enough that we sort of have to get along.
We have this curiosity as children. It's very rare to see it really expressed when you're an adult.
Nurturing startups is so important to Kansas City because as we move forward in the future, these small companies that are here today are likely to become those next large corporations that are really kind of pillars of the community.
Experience the hands-on fits and starts of innovative business building going on right here, right now in our community. This is reality TV that works. Startups made in Kansas City.
Yeah.
It's got to happen sometime.
How high is your expectation on this?
There's known issues with it.
There are known issues.
It's about an 8 or 9 on a scale of 100.
All right.
Here we go.
We're in the middle of what's called the Crossroads area of Kansas City. We're at an incubator called the Think Big Incubator. CandyCam makes multimedia robotics products. So our first product is indicative of what we consider a line of products, and it's all about enabling videographers to make robotically stabilized shots that would be unattainable without, lots of expensive equipment and lots of people, now done in a sole fashion under computer control that they can pull out of a bag, and it's smart and it enables them to be the creative artists that they always intended to be.
And really what that means is we're trying to create a new age of filmmaker equipment that's made for real filmmakers. You have a lot of complication today, and you have a lot of expensive equipment. And with the DSLR movement, the paradigm shifted. And so we realized that, hey, we want to be able to make real filmmaker gear for a real audience that's up and coming at an inexpensive cost.
The current, poema, the way that we speak to each other, is in video. And so when these young videographers came to me and asked me to, create a stabilized platform, it became obvious that technology has changed. Now we can make things light enough, high enough resolution that you can fly a camera. You can scan the room basically with a pulsed radar, which is how we do it, so that you're not running into things. You're measuring the room, and all this can be done without the videographer having to set up his cameras.
So CandyCam in and of itself is a mobile platform. It's suspended with 4 wires. And so what it does is it moves around the room, and you can script it with an iPad or an iPhone. And so that's something that's really, really powerful, and some of the shots you can get simply can't be accomplished with traditional equipment like some of the booms, some of the sliders, some of the rails. And so the CandyCam brings an interesting dynamic, and we're really, really excited about what artists are really going to come up with when they use one.
When I was 19 years old, I got involved in a startup in Lawrence, Kansas that became kind of the curse of my life. I've been doing it ever since. The interesting thing is that I'm 53 years old. I've been doing this for 34 years, on and off with the same person. So my business partner in this current deal, my business partner and I are roughly the same age. MIT educated my partner. I tend to be a locally educated electrical engineer. And what happens is that in the process you get approached by young physicists, in one of our cases, or electrical engineers, or computer scientists.
So before CandyCam, I actually had my own business, was a UX firm, UX standing for user experience. So we did a lot of cool illustration and web work and interface work. And one day I tried to make a photo shoot for Jeff. It was essentially trying to get some gears in assembly because he's this old crazy man. He's got all this stuff. And so we were trying to do some kind of video montage. And what happened was we started to set up this thing. We didn't have the equipment we needed. And we rigged up this kind of Frankenstein cart for everything. And what happened was the video was all shaky. We had to try to fix it in post. It was all messed up. And so what we found is we really needed something like a CandyCam, and it just didn't exist at the time. And so that's kind of how I got hooked up with Jeff, is, crazy old inventor dude. We had some crazy ideas, and so we had a lot of skill sets, and we decided to, create a company out of it.
So in our case, why is physics important? Because so much of what we do here is pretty complicated math with flight dynamics associated with it. So those are the people you tend to search out. So 11 of our people are all engineers. So almost everyone here tends to have some way a technical degree.
Where are these guys going?
I'm guess they're going to the roof to fly the Skyhook.
Look at that. This is the dirty little secrets of the hardware startup, is wires everywhere. It looks like a bomb. But really what this is one of our prototypes. I've been impressed with what you guys have done, honestly. We've got 4 reels going now, so that's impressive. And so yeah, this is the beginning of the new machine. We have a few more months in development, and then we can start getting some beta units out to, some important folks and people who want to try it out. And from there, then, that'll take us where we need to go.
So we have a formula that we use, which we jokingly call controlled anarchy. And control is really true for us. We probably run our shop with more discipline than almost any company I know of our size. We are very requirements driven, very design review driven, very backup driven with the way that we manage this incredibly complicated technology. Our device has over 10 microprocessors all communicating concurrently with each other. You can't do that and not use discipline. And the way we balance that so that you have fun while you're doing this crazy review process is that we create the anarchy. Even if you speak over the top in a meeting or are late to a meeting, you have to put money in the jar, and then there's kind of a kangaroo court of how much how much money you have to put in, what the money is spent on.
We actually have something called the justice jar. If you're mean to someone, you have to put money in a jar, and that's how we take care of things. It's used for parties or whatever it is. So.
And then what happens out of all that is next thing you know, Nerf weapons start showing up.
Oh my God. I'm sorry, Schaefer. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
What did you do to Schaefer?
I hit him in the face.
Oh!
This is ridiculous. Are you ready?
Ready.
Just another day at the office. San Francisco is great, and sure there's a lot of opportunities, but with Kansas City you see something that's really culturally shifting. You see something that's a grassroots or a groundswell of something new.
Kansas City's biggest asset is it's just such a livable city. It's a place that people want to live. It's a place you want to do a startup in. There's an energy about Kansas City that I like. We have a very rich university environment in the city, and I think getting better. Having University of Kansas so close to UMKC, in our case, right down the street, are just huge because they're both, very good institutions. That's been the huge thing here. Education's a huge piece. Livability is a huge piece. Kansas City has the job of keeping people like me or other startups around and creating an environment where they start here. I think Kansas City is stepping it up to do more and more of that.
I suppose that's why I really want to be a part of this Kansas City culture, is this boom in entrepreneurship and this boom in just innovation in general is something that I don't know if I could get that anywhere where you have established infrastructure and things like that. So it's kind of the wild, wild west in a way. I mean, you jump in here and a lot of things aren't established. There's just huge, huge opportunity here. You just get to build fun things. I mean, that's kind of the fun of it, is we have this curiosity as children. It's very rare to see it really expressed when you're an adult. Our company is fueled by that creativity and that curiosity, and I think that's what drives innovation. I think that's what drives everything. Is money's great, but what do you really want to do with your life? And I think this is a company that really answers those questions, as this is an adventure and this is a ride, and wherever it goes, you're going to experience a lot of fun things on the way, and that's really the point. That's why people make startups, so that's why I think people should make startups.
This is reality TV that works. Startups, made in Kansas City.
Kansas City is probably the most exciting, energetic, entrepreneurial, and tech atmosphere in the country right now.
My name's Pete Fullerton. I'm President and CEO of the Economic Development Corporation of Kansas City, Missouri. We are the go-to economic development agency for the city of Kansas City, Missouri in order to increase business development and economic prosperity for the city.
Hi, I'm Rick Usher. I'm Assistant City Manager with the City of Kansas City, Missouri, and I've been working with the Google Fiber team to deploy the network in Kansas City.
I'm Aaron Deacon, with the Managing Director for KC Digital Drive. Our charge is to implement the playbook that has been put out by the Mayor's Bi-State Innovations team.
My name is Drew Solomon. I'm a development officer here at the Economic Development Corporation, Kansas City, Missouri. I'm also heading up the Launch KC initiative.
I'm Mike Burke, and I'm co-chair of the Mayor's Bi-State Innovation team, but helped start Launch KC. And Launch KC is an initiative of the Economic Development Corporation of Kansas City.
Launch KC is a city initiative to bring the private sector and the startup community to the table and convene a conversation about what the future of our city looks like from an economic development standpoint and from a small and emerging business standpoint.
What Launch KC does is provide some of the help, the tools, the office space, the mentoring, some financing options, and contacts for those startups trying to get started in Kansas City.
Nurturing startups is so important to Kansas City because as we move forward in the future, these small companies that are here today are likely to become larger employers in the future and will help put more folks in our community to work, especially in sustainable career opportunities in things like information technology and other STEM-related activities. So we really want to encourage that kind of employment. And it's also really a historical thing. You know, a lot of major companies in Kansas City, whether it was, you know, something founded, you know, like Hallmark or, you know, the Ewing Kauffman and his labs, all those different things really started as entrepreneurial endeavors. And we really want to promote that spirit here in Kansas City, and we want to make sure that we provide every opportunity for our young companies to become those next large corporations that are really kind of pillars of the community.
There's been authors that have called the Midwest the zone of sanity. And that zone of sanity, I think, is that you can still get things for your dollar. You can be able to make things happen. You're quicker to market. We have the technology backbone that is growing. We have an entrepreneurial energy for this city and this region where ideas are able to come to fruition. And in the Midwest, this is still fertile soil for many entrepreneurs to be able to come in, do it in an efficient, effective way, and be able to make their dreams happen.
You know, over the last few decades, frankly, we've lost some talent to cities like Denver and Chicago and San Francisco. We're beginning to see a lot of that creative talent, especially, come back to Kansas City because the national buzz is that Kansas City has some exciting things going on.
We also have a very active entrepreneur community here in Kansas City. Events like A Million Cups and other things like that have really opened the door for a lot of networking opportunities and a lot of really good interactions.
Now, this initiative is 10% about technology and 90% about sociology. One of the things that you see with a high bandwidth network is, that it's about making connections, right? And, from a technology perspective, that means connecting computers and connecting endpoints. But from a human perspective, it means collaborating and connecting people in a way that, maybe they weren't connected before.
Well, the importance, and particularly in economic development, is that you never accomplish anything by yourself. The only way you make things happen is by a robust network of contacts, robust network of people working together, rowing in the boat, and moving things forward. In Kansas City, we have a history of rolling up our sleeves and making things happen and being able to do things together. This is really just a natural extension when we start talking about an entrepreneurial enterprise and growing those enterprises, is that everybody locks arms and makes sense to work together to make things happen.
Kansas City, Missouri is the place to plant your flag in entrepreneurship, especially if you're a startup. almost every great Kansas City company you can think of, from Kaufman Labs, Ewing Marion Kaufman, who now has created the Kaufman Foundation, to Roastery Coffee, all started as home-based businesses. So the sky really is the limit. And with gigabit fiber, it's no longer bandwidth that's limiting your potential. You are really only bounded by the imagination you can bring to developing your company.
This is reality TV that works. Startups, made in Kansas City.
One of my favorite things about being a part of the restaurant community in Kansas City is how close-knit it is. If I'm out of onions one night, there's 4 different restaurants that I can walk to in 5 minutes that would loan me onions. And I think that in some bigger cities, it's more cutthroat and people aren't helping each other. They're definitely competing against each other. I think in Kansas City, we're competing and we push each other to get better, and we definitely each of us wants to be the best. But at the same time, we're small enough that we sort of have to get along.
The Rieger Hotel was built in 1915 by Alexander Rieger, and I knew that it was originally a hotel when we first started looking at signing the lease and doing the restaurant. What I didn't know was that Alexander is the son of Jacob Rieger, who had a whiskey distillery and a wholesale distribution company in Kansas City that he started in the late 1800s. And when his son built this hotel, they put a mural on the south wall advertising their Monogram whiskey. And by the time we took over in 2010, it was faded beyond recognition, but we were able to reconstruct it and have it hand painted almost back to its original form.
We were very interested when starting our restaurant that we wanted to tie into the history of our building and our neighborhood and really be part of Kansas City's culture rather than a new trendy hotspot that may not last very long. We really wanted to feel established. So tapping into this history was a way to brand ourselves in a way that seemed, part of the community and part of something bigger.
Well, we're in a really fascinating part of Kansas City here in the Crossroads Art District, which on a national scale is being marketed as the creative crossroads of the country. We're surrounded by art galleries, really great restaurants and bars. There's a ton of design firms, world-renowned architectural firms, video production agencies, and even Google. Google is now launching their Google Fiber project here in this part of Kansas City. So it's a very creative, very energetic neighborhood that is perfect for a business like ours that wants to be innovative and wants to be fresh and new and have a lot of fun with what we're doing.
Being a partner in a restaurant is definitely a very challenging thing. I had been a chef at a couple other places here in Kansas City, and I'd been cooking professionally my whole adult life, but it took a whole lot to go from being a chef to being a chef owner. And it was a real education for me. In so many ways, it draws you away from the thing that you're passionate about and great at, which for me was cooking. And I had to focus on so many other things that were new to me, setting up an LLC and dealing with lawyers and dealing with banks and investors, and all of those things were new to me. And I really enjoyed the challenges of it, and I really grew a lot from it. But at the same time, it's sort of ironic that to achieve my dream of being, a chef and restaurateur of my own restaurant, I'm cooking less and less all the time because of it, and I'm doing more meetings and more training and planning events and planning future menus and things like that.
Well, running a restaurant is definitely not the easiest thing, but I think that if you love doing it and if you have a desire to be in the hospitality industry and serve great food and great drinks and really appreciate being around people and meeting new people and taking care of them and giving them a good experience, then I think you'll love it. But otherwise, yeah, it does take a lot out of you, and it's a very stressful business. I mean, if you're just looking to make a few bucks, then there are probably better, safer routes to go than opening a restaurant.
It's definitely a hard business. I think for a restaurant to succeed, you need to put in hours. Really, for the first 9 months, I worked open to close every single day, and it was really an enormous amount of hours. I was always here to watch it. I was always here to correct things that went wrong, and I think that's a big key to having repeat business is they know that when they show up, they're going to see you and that you care and you're there and you're paying attention. It takes a huge commitment, but it's also what I always wanted to do, so it's easy to do. So during the day, we're back behind the line prepping for dinner service. During the dinner service, I'll be at the expo station here, pulling the tickets and calling the food out to the cooks. They put it up in the hot window here, and I bring it over to the servers who take it to the guests. Between lunch and dinner, though, I have a lot of downtime where I do other things that have more to do with the business and less to do with the cooking. This is my office. I sit at this counter, and we'll have our cell phones out and the laptop computer, and we get a lot of work done this way when there is less to do in the kitchen. Tonight, for example, we've got a great dry-aged T-bone steak on special and a lamb pasta that we're working on that's going to be on our new menu. Those are things that I know our regulars would want to know about. So I'll go onto Facebook and post maybe a picture or a description and kind of a teaser, and I know we'll get great results from that. There'll probably be people in tonight that saw it on Facebook.
We are very much big believers in using social media, and I think that a lot of small businesses these days are going that route. You know, we don't do a lot of print advertising; it's very expensive. The majority of what we do is, you know, more of a direct connection with our guests and with our friends and our clientele through social media.
We have $0 in the budget for print advertising because we're really finding that it hasn't been very effective. We can post a special on Facebook at 11 in the morning, and we get a guest in the door at 11:25 that came for that special. It's amazing how quickly people respond to it, and I think it is a great way not only to post content about what's happening at the restaurant and what you have to offer that's on specials that day, but I also think it's a way to develop relationships with people.
I've always kind of looked at print advertising and marketing of your business sort of like your business card, but you know, using social media is like a handshake or a hug. You know, it allows you to really be yourself and kind of convey your personality, and I think people have a greater understanding of who you are, and I think it really helps build a brand.
Here in the bar area, we built a new back bar and we stained it, you know, a dark, you know, wood. I think that works nicely with the feel of the, you know, how the hotel might have looked back in 1915. Also for us, a big part of our concept is our cocktail program and our bar program in general. We are a restaurant first and foremost, but you do a lot better margins on selling liquor than you do selling food. And so really, it was something that was important to us, was to get established as a really well-known bar so that people can use us in different ways.
Manifesto opened in April of 2009, and the idea was really to create a small, high-end craft cocktail bar where we really got to experiment and have a lot of fun with making really beautiful drinks in a pre-prohibition style. And the setting of it being in the basement here at the Rieger was just perfect because we could have the entrance back in the alley, keep it kind of discreet, didn't really do any advertising. It was really a perfect location for a concept like that. And then a couple years later, you know, we were able to take over the restaurant space upstairs and open up the Rieger. The theme of Manifesto is really a classic cocktail lounge. We do take reservations, which is a little bit unusual for a bar, but we do it via text message. So we have a cell phone, we run the whole business on that, and you can call or send a text for a reservation. We only have 48 seats, and when we fill those seats, we're at our capacity. So there's no standing room only. It's not a crowded, uncomfortable bar. We want to keep it comfortable, high level of service, and we want it to be a good experience. The feedback has been amazing. I mean, early on, we did have a lot of excitement and a lot of buzz about what we were doing because it was so different. It took a little time, I think, for a lot of people to understand what we were all about, but after almost 4 years, I think that we've really gotten into a groove, and not just locally, but nationally, it's been recognized by a lot of our peers in the industry. We really like to maintain a high level of service and class, and so we're really not trying to pinpoint a specific demographic. It's really a bar that should be for everyone.
I think one of the best things for Kansas City's restaurant scene is there's a lot of guys my age who have traveled a lot, who have worked in some of the best restaurants in the country and in other countries as well, and have come back home and are trying to do our thing here. The rent's a lot lower, the taxes are lower, it's pretty wide open, and you can definitely build the kind of place you want to build and do it a lot more affordable than you could in San Francisco or New York. But at the same time, I think the general population here is really proud of our local restaurants and independent restaurants, and they know that we're doing things that are getting national attention, and there's really good support from Kansas Cityans.
We get the Manifesto M, and this is the original J. Rieger & Company whiskey crest from the late 1880s. So this is definitely a commitment.
I was going to say, you won't be moving anytime soon.
Yeah. No, not at all. I'm here. I'm here for life.
A co-production of KCPT and Outpost Worldwide, at home in Kansas City. Production, post, content.